On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario, south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work, we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger long. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger long. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Norfolk, 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 you won't be a stranger along. On a strip of sandy soil lies a county called Norfolk. It's Ontario's south coast, you know, and it's surely not remote. If you pass through or spend a day or decide to call it home, you'll see why we love it here and are proud to call it our own. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. Take in the small town atmosphere, be amazed at all that we grow. Like our kids that go and see the world and can't wait to return home. Drop a line in a placid lake or stroll along the shore. Take a tour on a peaceful country road and bound to be back for more. Of Norfolk, Norfolk, my southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk, we know you can't go wrong with the friendly folk of Norfolk. You won't be a stranger along. With hard work we built a dream that only willing hands could do. It's on display at our fall fairs and at all the festivals too. Erie beaches, Carolinian forests, where the flower and dogwoods bloom. Patchwork fields and rolling hills, it's just the place for you. Norfolk, Norfolk, a southern county home. Norfolk, Norfolk.
So this is a bit of a weird order. So what we'll do here is we're going to leave this one for now. We'll do this deputation, the staff report, and then the new deputation of that Dave Cameron.
Okay, where's he?
That should be in your notes here.
Okay, we have Mr. Rowe.
Yep, and that one.
Okay.
And then on the next page, you'll see there's the deputation of Dave Cameron, and then we'll do the staff report for that one.
Okay.
And then we'll have to go back to this one here.
Where have I got? There we go. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So confusing.
So we've got. Oh yeah. So we got.
Yeah.
No, we're not doing that. Where are we here? Dave Cameron.
No,
David Rowe.
Yeah.
Where's he? Here we Thank you, everyone. If we could get back to the agenda, please. We're into the deputation section, and we're going to invite Mr. David Rowe to the podium to speak on his deputation respecting McBain Street surplus roads. Mr. Rowe, you're up. You know the rules.
Thank you again. I'm here to speak regarding the request for a road closure on McBain in Port Dover. Just a brief overview. My client owns 3 separate parcels, which he's looking at being able to consolidate, as well as with that consolidation, then be able to bring forward a proposal for some type of medium density residential development. So, but in order to do that, we have to know is in fact the land that we're talking about, the unopened road allowance, is it available so that we could purchase it as part of a consolidation effort. Once we know that, then we are able to then proceed with coming up with a concept, looking at and as well as looking at the other prerequisites that staff have brought to our attention through the pre-consultation process. Without obtaining this land, our only option would then be to develop the existing roadway to county standards. Part of the difficulty with that is as we're only developing one side of the road, that in all likelihood would increase our costs. So at this point, we're looking for support from council and being able to be advised that yes, in fact, the land is for sale, and that we would be then able to proceed from there. The report specifies a $1 per square foot price. Well, there's 2 ways of looking. I know the county has a cost per acre if you're buying rural land. Then they have a cost on a per square footage basis if you're buying urban land. Well, this is actually something in the middle. Yes, it's within an urban settlement area. However, there are no services in that area. So, but getting back to my main point, we really need to know if in fact this land is available. If it's available, then we can do our due diligence. We can then work with the planning department and other departments to bring forward a proposal. And it has to be both desirable from a land use perspective, obviously, but it also has to be desirable from a business case perspective. That's basically all I wanted to say. I didn't know at the time what information staff would be providing you with. My overview of the proposal, which I did provide to county staff for the pre-consultation, is attached as part of your package, and which is good. That gives a lot of information as to what we're looking at and where we'd like to head with this. So with that in mind, that's really all I have to say at this point. If there's any questions that any of council have, I'm here to answer that. But again, I thank you for this opportunity to get my 2 cents worth in before you review the report. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Any questions? Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave, what would the ingress and egress into this property eventually be if, in fact, those unopened road allowances on St. David Street and Crescent Road were closed off?
Yeah, at this point, there's McBain as it follows along the existing trail.
Right.
There's access out to Prospect, which is probably the most direct way to get into the site. There's also the possibility of, because there's an open road allowance further to the south or further away from our property, that again is a public access. There can be additional access, perhaps for fire protection, emergency vehicles, that type of thing as well. So there are two locations potentially for access to the property, and that'll be sorted out again as part of our design for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Well, thank you very much again.
Could I have a mover and seconder to receive the deputation? Mayor Luke, Councillor Geisens, all those in favor? That is carried. We'll now go on to the staff report, ECS 17-69, proposed closure and sale of McBain Avenue, St. David Street, and Crescent Road, Plan 207, Port Dover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gary Short is the owner of 3 separate parcels, as shown on the map attached to this report. These lands are vacant and accessed by a gravel and dirt laneway that travels along the unopened portion of McBain Avenue. Mr. Short, through his agents David Rowe, Nada Laddie, and Alan Dean, has submitted a request for closure and conveyance of the portions of McBain Avenue, St. David Street, and Crescent Road, which abut his parcels, to facilitate the consolidation and enlargement of his parcels for the purpose of residential development. Planning has no objections to the road closure. Public Works and Community Services will require easements which will be reserved upon transfer of the properties. Hydro One will require an easement over the portion of McBain Avenue. This easement will be registered prior to the transfer of the property. Council's approved valuation of $1.25 per square foot for streets, lanes, and alleys in an urban location values the property to be transferred at approximately $144,437. The property owner will be responsible for all costs associated with the closure and conveyance. The staff will answer any questions council has. Thank you.
Questions to staff? Anybody? Okay. Councillor Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This actually is maybe directed at Mr. Cridlin as much as anything, and that is, given that this McBain Avenue unopened runs adjacent to our Lynn Valley Trail in that area, did staff give any consideration when this request came in to possibly the need for widening the trail or anything at that point, or is it truly surplus even to your department's needs vis-a-vis the Lynn Valley Trail?
Through the chair to Council Oliver, no, I believe that was taken into consideration, and staff are okay with the width of the trail there.
Anyone else? Mayor Luke?
Well, I know the answer to this question, Mr. Chairman, but through you to Lydia, the cost you have in your recommendation of $144,000, that's basically just a straight out calculation based on the urban. This is inside the urban boundary.
Through the chair, that is correct, Marilyn.
We have not seen any type of evaluation for these. Well, they're no longer streets. I mean, the north-south along the trail is, you can access it, but the other portions. So you're just basically following the policy on that.
That is correct.
Mr. Chair, the other question that I have is our deputation talked about this property sort of somewhat in between. It's sort of in the urban boundary, but it's somewhat rural in nature. But, you know, again, I'm not here to discuss publicly what that should be. That's just the recommendation per our existing policy, and I get where that's coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Columbus?
Yes, to staff, looking at agenda page 150, at the map 1, proposed road closure, that diagram there, when you look at that, it looks as though the south end of St. David Street and Crescent Road would actually perhaps give us, the county, 2 building lots. Would that be the case, to Lydia? Can we get building lots off those two?
Through the chair, just for clarification to Councillor Columbus, are you talking about the areas that have been hatched for closure or the remainder portions?
No, the remainder portion,
The remainder portions?
between Main Street and the subject property line.
The interesting part of that, Councillor Columbus, is that Public Works had asked for an easement over the portions of Crescent Road and St. David's Street. I think this is in regards to drainage from the area. I would ask Ms. Robinson to maybe speak to that if she wouldn't mind.
Through the Chair to Council, Ms. Harrison's correct. We do have drainage ditches through that area that we need to maintain, and that's why we're asking for those easements.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Oliver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kind of the same question, I guess, to Lydia that Councillor Columbus just asked regarding those unopened street ends. If you look at Prospect Street on the left side of that map, where it butts up to the north end, I guess, of McBain, would there be sufficient width there that could in fact be a building lot fronting onto Prospect Street?
Through the chair to Councillor Oliver, speaking from my knowledge, I'm not certain of what the required frontage is for a building lot within an urban area. I don't know if perhaps Mr. Baird Cazelpas or Matt, who's here today.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would depend on the zone that the property would be rezoned to. So if it's a residential zone, it would be somewhere in the area of 20 to 30 meters, but we'd have to double check, and like I said, it would depend on the zone.
Before I relinquish, I'm only asking that question in the context of a couple of other rural railway rights-of-way that have or could have been developed as trails and instead were developed as building lots with relatively narrow frontage and narrow lots. So I'm not saying whether that is or isn't something that we would consider, but I would think if it could, in fact, meet the frontage requirements, it would or could be a building lot there.
Okay. All right. You have the recommendation before you on page 133. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wells, move. Mayor Luke, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Our next deputation is Mr. David Cameron to speak on cottage watch signs for Long Point. Welcome. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Mayor, esteemed councillors, staff, and respected guests, my name is Dave Cameron. I would like to declare that I have no conflict of interest today. Everything I do for the county is pro bono. I do a number of things, but tonight I'm speaking to you on behalf of the Long Point Ratepayers Association. What we'd like to ask for tonight is that a councillor put forward the following motion and that this is approved to direct staff to supply and install and maintain 4 cottage watch signs in the south side of Lake Erie Boulevard near the intersections of Hastings, Pickerel, Abigail Becker, and Old Cut in Long Point, preferably in December 2017. I'd like to show you why we'd like this motion. Long Point is approximately 1,000 properties. Estimated property value in Long Point is about $500 million. Long Point taxes contribute about $4 million per year that underwrite the Norfolk County costs. Cottage Watch program was established in 2004. OPP has shared our statistics with us. I have to correct, I say there's almost 100 break-ins per year. We just reviewed the data. There's about been 44 break-ins over the last 4 years. There's been 100 events in Long Point per year. 1 in 10 properties has an issue every year. Of interest, that there's a very large spike in January. There's also, if I'm not going to look at, if you can see all the data there, there's also a very high frequency of incidents, as you can imagine, in the summer months. OPP is written to the mayor. I don't know if he's had a chance to share that with council, but the letter from Officer Sanchuk basically says cottage watch signs do in fact reduce crime rates. They do support the recommended locations of those signs, as they are strategic and they are places where the public will either slow down or most likely be. And they pointed out in the letter that they feel the county is in fact responsible for the signs. I need to open up that topic because I know that the staff report recommends that the ratepayers actually pay for the signs. The most important point I want to make is the ratepayers are committing thousands of hours in kind of surveillance time to this program. This is an Ontario Provincial Police program. It's an extension of Neighborhood Watch, and if you look at the county budget, the signs will be on the roads. If you look at county budget between roads and OPP, we spend $25 million a year on those two line items. To me, and to all of the ratepayers, they feel they've basically already paid for these signs in their taxes. That's why we're asking for the county to sponsor this. That is the artwork that's been recommended by Ontario Provincial Police for the 4 signs. We did, at the encouragement of staff, we went to all of the members of the Long Point Ratepayers Association with the attached notice over the summer months to advise them that these signs would be in place and to write back to us if they had any questions or comments. I can share with you that we did have one question. The one question was, do these signs really decrease crime rates? And we checked with Officer Janchuk, and he's agreed that they do in fact work. So based on that, we've had no complaints, and the community is ready for these signs. Once again, this is the motion that we're asking to be put forward tonight and approved, is to direct staff to supply and install and maintain the 4 cottage watch signs on county property as per the art where I just showed you in Long Point on the south side of Erie, near the intersections of Hastings as you come into Long Point, Pickerel, Abigail Becker, and Old Cut. And the reason we're asking in December 2017 is specifically because of the spike in crime rates that we see in January. It would be a bonus to have that done this month. In our observations in the past, signs often go up within 48 hours of decisions here, so I don't think it's an unreasonable request. Thank you. I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions, anybody? I have one. What do you attribute the increase in crime rate in January to?
Well, I think it's it's vacant properties.
Okay.
And it's opportunistic attack on resort residential communities.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
I'm no police officer.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a group, that Neighborhood Watch group, or that association or whatever?
Yeah, the Neighborhood Watch program, it's Cottage Watch, which is an extension of Neighborhood Watch. I think it started in 2004, so the community has been doing this for a long time. I neglected to say, in my enthusiasm, there's 3 things that we're doing with the Cottage Watch program. We're increasing surveillance, we're adding more volunteers and more surveillance time. We're actually in the final phases of finalizing a video network surveillance, a video surveillance network to have 24/7 observations. And finally, we want to put up 4 signs to communicate the strength of the community.
And I don't have any problem with the sign. I guess my question is, you're asking Norfolk County to pay for the signs as well? Usually in these Neighborhood Watch programs, they supply the signs and we put them up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Our position, the county has their own sign shop. Long Point does not. A county can do these at a tiny cost, I would suggest, and the county is the expert in signs. They would know these signs have to be maintained in whatever it is, 25, 30 years, they're going to have to be replaced. The county is expert in these things. It's on their property. it only makes sense that the county pay this tiny cost for the program.
And my only comment is, it may be a tiny cost, but all little tiny costs add up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If that was a question, my answer is this is an investment rather than a cost.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Councillor Oliver.
County did share their staff report with me. I don't want to steal Lee's thunder, but through the chair, I understand it's a couple of $100,
Yep,
the cost.
okay. All right. And finally, Mr. Chairman, if I could, the dimensions. I know Councillor Height always gets after us when we consider putting up more signage of any kind in Long Point, and there is a lot of it. How big would these signs be?
We did work with staff on that. They recommended the exact dimensions, which are about the size of a speed limit sign.
Yeah.
And I'd never argue with an expert, and we're accepting their recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you for your deputation. We need
Thank
a
you.
mover and a seconder to receive. Height and Geisens. All those in favor? That is carried, thank you. Which brings us to staff report. PW 1788, Long Point Ratepayers Association Cottage Watch Sign Request. This goes all the way back to page 5 of your agenda. Ms. Robinson, please.
Through the chairman to council, before you is the request for the cottage watch signs in Long Point. The request has come in, staff have prepared the report. In keeping with how we have handled neighborhood watch, et cetera, the community group raises the funds for the signs. They have the option to either have the signs made by our sign shop and we send out an invoice, or they can talk to a private company to have those signs made, and then the county goes and installs those signs. We have put forward the same recommendation in this case in keeping with that existing philosophy. The signs are, about the same size as a speed limit sign or as the neighborhood watch signs that you see around in other places in the municipality, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
I think you've answered my question. We do have similar type signs throughout Norfolk County, and the past practices have been that those individuals paid for those signs and not Norfolk County. Is that what you're telling us?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Luke.
Through you to Lee, what are we looking at? As David said, $200?
Through the chairman to council, as we indicated in the report, we estimated that the total cost for all 4 signs would be approximately between $200 and $300 total.
2 and 3, thank you.
Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Public Works. Do you think this would be in the roads budget? So do you think in the $23 or $24 million roads budget you would find the extra $100 to make the signs from the sign shop and install them?
Through the chairman to council, certainly if council's desirous of having all community organizations that wish to have signs done so at the county's cost, we can certainly implement that.
How many requests do we get per year?
I can think of 117 that Chris Baird's group forwarded us this year that we've installed. So, and they were supplied by an external one. We received multiple requests for multiple signs. The drowning signs that came forward, we received many. We likely receive 2 or 3 requests a month to supply and install the signs. Most of the signage that goes up is done in accordance with the direction council's provided, which is they pay for the signs and we do the install.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver, please.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommendation on page 5 of our agenda. I just want to have clarification from Ms. Robinson. The third paragraph states that council instruct the property owners to supply the signs, but in fact, your department would produce them, assuming they agree to reimburse us. Is that correct?
Certainly.
Okay.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Black? Can speak to it.
Okay, well, I think it's the appropriate way to deal with it. We've heard from staff that you know, it's quite easy to deal with one situation and think it's not a big deal. But the counselors aren't thinking of what the staff knows. And that's why we need to ask the questions. In the bigger picture, it does consume a lot of staff time and energy and cost if we were to do all of the requested signs. And to make it fair for one, I mean, that's what we always aim at, is trying to make things fair for everyone. Based on that, I support the recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and seconded. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. All right. Staff reports, let's see, 80. We're back here, right? Wholesale?
Nope.
Nope?
No, we've got to go back to this one here.
Oh, yes. All right. We are moving around here tonight. All right. Let's go to page 99. Staff report DCS 17-91, meth clinic policy review. Who's up with this? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I would just like to make a point of correction. It is not a meth clinic policy review. This is for opioid replacement therapy. Okay. It is quite important to make that distinction, just because they are two very different forms of substances. But earlier this year, Council discussed the impacts of opioid replacement therapy clinics in Norfolk County. Council then asked planning staff to prepare a bylaw to regulate these clinics in the county. And Council wanted the zoning to reflect the respectful need to access additional treatment. And just for some background and some points of clarification, methadone is a synthetic opioid that prevents or reduces withdrawal symptoms to aid in the elimination of narcotic dependency. Methadone maintenance treatment program is designed to help treat people with opiate dependency. Any pharmacies with the correct training and license could become a methadone dispensary. So that means that this isn't limited to the own clinics in our downtowns. It could be in any pharmacy across the county. Norfolk County zoning bylaw treats all medical clinics and pharmacies in the same way. Currently, these forms of clinics are zoned and permitted in around 7 of our zones: central business district, shopping center commercial zones, service commercial zones, residential commercial business zone, neighborhood commercial zone, hamlet commercial zone, and community institutional zone. And like I said, because there's no differentiation between a methadone clinic and any other form of doctor's office or clinic, your standard doctor's office and clinic, that's what all these zones contain. Planning staff had a look at what other municipalities are doing right now. Sorry, I missed one here. We looked at Brantford, Hamilton, Kitchener, London, Oshawa, Tillsonburg, Windsor, and Woodstock. So Brantford, Hamilton, and Kitchener have no specific opioid replacement clinic policies, whereas London and Oshawa, they do have opioid replacement clinic policies. However, they have been challenged by the Ontario Human Rights Commission. Tillsonburg does also have them. However, they are on the Ontario Human Rights Commission radar. And Windsor did have them, but they've recently rescinded that policy because they were challenged by the Ontario Human Rights Commission. And currently Woodstock has those policies in place. Planning staff have consulted with Norfolk County OPP, the Haldimand Norfolk Health Unit, and also with external legal counsel in relation to this use. The Norfolk County OPP find no connection between the opioid replacement therapy clinics in downtown and crime. The Haldimand Norfolk Health Unit supports opioid replacement therapy clinics in our community, recognizing that they provide a vital service to some of our most marginalized and vulnerable community members. And according to external legal counsel, if council were to try to zone for opioid replacement clinics, their advice is that it's based on real land use planning rationale, that it must have regard to matters of provincial interest, and that land use restrictions relating to opioid replacement therapy clinics comply with the Human Rights Code and the Human Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And those are some very important considerations. I'll finish with a couple quick points here about trying to zone for opioid replacement therapy clinics in the county. So a zoning bylaw is not a place to regulate medication prescribed by a medical doctor within any medical office or clinic. Using zoning in an attempt to control behavioral issues associated with opioid replacement therapy clinics would constitute what we call people zoning, and it's not permitted in our Planning Act. Opioid replacement therapy clinics should not receive special zoning apart from any other type of clinic or doctor's office or pharmacy. Regulating opioid replacement therapy clinics through zoning would breach the Canadian Charter of Rights and Human Rights Code. And lastly, clinics, medical offices, and pharmacies that prescribe, dispense, or treat substance abuse illness have regard for the public's interest. They're consistent with the policies of the PPS. They conform with the intent of our zoning bylaw, and I comply with they conform with the intent of the Norfolk County Official Plan and comply with the policies of our zoning bylaw. Therefore, planning staff's opinion is that it's not appropriate to regulate opioid replacement clinics through our zoning bylaw and recommend maintaining the current zoning provisions as a clinic or doctor's office and pharmacy. However, if council wishes to still continue to zone for that use, staff letting council know they have a couple of options. One would be that Norfolk County Council could direct planning staff to amend our bylaw to define an opioid replacement therapy clinic and limit its use to all current zones that permit a clinic or doctor's office except the central business district. That's where the conversation originally started. And option two would be basically the same thing, but to restrict it to only in the industrial zone. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Councillor Height, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Vaughn. Matt, in your research, you've done a considerable amount looking at what other municipalities do. And I'm looking at Belleville right now, and it seems like option 3. You put in the definition, and then you do not allow them in any zone. How are they able to get away with that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's likely that the Human Rights Commission has not been notified of that decision, and it's just likely they haven't been challenged on it yet. If at any point we have something in our zoning bylaw that breaches Canadian law, we can be tried.
Okay, that's not good. So while you were doing your research, did you find any other municipalities that had like zoning, say, I get asked quite a bit for why aren't these people going to the hospital, or why aren't they going to our Gilbertson Street address to get their medication? Why are there private clinics being opened when we already have provincial or local municipal buildings that could handle this easily?
Through the chair, just to clarify the question, why are they using the two facilities in Simcoe versus other places?
No, why aren't we using the hospital or our health services building? We accept patients there.
Okay. Through the chair, I'm not certain of the answer, but I would defer that question to Susan Taylor.
Thank you. So to speak to from a hospital perspective, hospitals are set up to manage patients who are acutely ill and in hospital. They wouldn't be set up to manage individuals' care on an outpatient basis. And I think the other piece to it is that the opioid replacement therapy clinics are providing fundamental primary care to complex individual situations. From a health unit perspective, we would not have the clinical capacity to provide that type of intense service that these individuals would require.
But you do provide certain amounts of care to certain individuals, so would it be that big of a stretch for the province to mandate it to you 100% funded and you handle it out of your building and hire the appropriate staff?
I would suggest that that would be the equivalent to saying that the health unit would be mandated to provide any other primary care service, and we aren't. And so to extend into that realm would open innumerable options that I don't think is really ours to own. It is served by, patients are served by the primary care sector in that situation.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Black?
Chairman, through you to Matt, if we were to recommend option one, would the two that are in the downtown Simcoe be grandfathered in, so you couldn't make them leave? So it would be a legal non-conforming use?
Through the chair, that would be correct. The two existing clinics, along with any pharmacies that currently dispense opioid replacement therapy, would all become legal non-conforming. However, as I mentioned in my presentation, option one still restricts access to, to a necessity, to marginalized community members. It does still violate certain charter rights. So while it's still an option, it's not the best option.
So what you're saying is it could be challenged by the Human Rights Code, under the Human Rights Code?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Mayor Luke?
Yeah, from back in the spring, I had some conversations with Tilsonburg about how they handled it, and also took off the internet Woodstock and London's ruling on it as well. So I'm glad to see those in here, but I have a question for Matt on page 102 of our agenda, and specifically zeroing in on Oxford County and Woodstock. Again, could you comment please on it? The county has approved amendments to its official plan and approved amendments to the zoning bylaw for special zoning related to opioid replacement therapy clinics. So they have something in their bylaw, obviously, that is law that we do not have here or other municipalities. Of course, we always know that on the doorstep is the Human Rights Commission. These amendments included only allowing the clinic in specific zones, not permitting them on main streets, and requiring a larger indoor waiting area. How does that get incorporated into a zoning bylaw that you have to have a larger waiting room on your floor coverage? How does that how are they in a zoning bylaw able to keep them off Main Street?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not certain how that doesn't infringe certain charter rights, and I can't guess to know why they have added specific provisions in regards to larger waiting areas. It would require a number of studies. It would require scientific information and data to be able to make that justification.
Yeah, the other thing, if I may, Mr. Chair, just make a comment on, and I know it's question time, but going back to the consultation with the Norfolk County OPP, certainly Councillor Oliver recalls when this was brought before the Police Services Board, certainly it was made very clear to us that based on Norfolk Detachment's investigation into crime activity, selling, trafficking, drugs, misbehavior, that they are unable to find a connection between, for the most part, people that